I can't tell you how thrilled I am to talk to Rocky Sue again about Jake and the Heavenly Host. This is such a powerful book. I was thinking today when I woke up, I wish I had this book when I was, in fourth grade, fifth grade, or even a young teenager, but I didn't. I had something else, but this would have been wonderful. So, Rocky Sue, thanks so much as always for chatting with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about this book. And this was your first book. So how did this come to be?
I'm a storyteller, and I would tell my kids stories. And when my kids started attending the local Christian school, I decided to start substituting there. I had taught kids forever, but I'd never taught them in a school classroom setting. So I was a little nervous when I walked in, and it was my son's fifth grade class. And he had told all of his friends that his mom was a storyteller. So the first thing that happened when I walked in was everybody started saying, "Can we have a story? Will you tell us?" And I'm thinking, oh, this is perfect, blackmail. And so I told him, if everyone finishes work, all of your work for the day, and if everybody's good, the last 15, 20 minutes of class, I'll tell you a story. And everybody was good. And the two kids that never finished their work finished it. So I told them a story at the end of that class period. From then on, whatever class I was substituting in, the first thing they would say is, "Can you tell us a story?" And I used the same bribery. I never had any discipline issues either with those kids. But after a while, the teachers began asking me and the parents, "Where are you getting these stories?" Because the kids would go home and tell the stories to their parents. And I would tell them that I'm not getting them anywhere. They're stories that I make up. And they all said the exact same thing. Every one of them. They said, "You have got to write these down." I actually had a lady chase me across the parking lot one day, a mom wanting to know where the book was that she could get. And I had to tell her that. She said the same thing. "Oh, you've got to write these down." And I always made sure all of my stories had spiritual emphasis, had learning, where the kids were learning what the Bible teaches as well as I told them. So that's where I finally one day sat down and thought, okay, I'll write it out. And that is where Jake and the Heavenly Host came from.
So you write Jake and the Heavenly Host, and the story you just told us was wonderful, that it was probably going to get a great reception. But were you surprised by the kind of reception it got? Because it got a huge reception.
It does. The kids who read it, actually at a different school that I had taught high school Bible for 7 years, but I had started substituting after that. And I walked into a fourth grade class, and they had done a book report. They had to do read a different book and report every quarter. And I walk in there, and half of the posters on the wall are Jake and the Heavenly Host. And they don't know who I am for the most part. And so I'm sitting there waiting for the morning bell to ring. And I hear two little boys over there arguing. "Yes, she is. No, she's not. Yes, she is. Ask her." And I knew what they were wanting to ask. So I didn't say anything. I just smiled. And, when the bell rang and I brought class together, one of the little boys' hands just popped right up. And he said, "Aren't you Mrs. Fordham? Didn't you write Jake and the Heavenly Host?" And I told him, yes, that I had. But the librarian at that school told me that she actually had a waiting list. And she said she'd never had a children's book that she had to have a waiting list for. And she had a waiting list for checking out Jake and the Heavenly Host. I did give the school a couple more books, so kids didn't have to wait so long to get to read it. But yes, it's my oldest son was fifth grade. I had fifth, fourth, second, and first, I think, at that time. But I had noticed, and they had noticed, for boys, there's lots of books that girls like. But for boys that age, they want action. They want adventure, mystery, suspense. Now, girls do too, but there just aren't that many that are as action-packed as my sons wanted the books to be. So I wanted to make sure when I wrote it that it was full of mystery, suspense, adventure. But I also have spiritual warfare. So you see both the physical realm and the spiritual realm. And you meet the angels, guardian angels, that are helping and assisting in all the way through the book with what's going on in these two young boys' lives.
Wow. And Jake and the Heavenly Host, and here I have a copy of it too as well. So if that librarian would like to reach out to me, I'll loan it to you, but I'm keeping this copy. So you've given us some broad themes, but tease us a little bit more with some more that's in the book.
Okay. One of the boys, Jake is the oldest, Daniel is the second, which incidentally, my sons are named Jake and Daniel. Daniel has had something bad happen in his life, and he's got a bitterness in his heart toward God because of what happened. And then Daniel's father, both of the boys' fathers work CIA, and Daniel's father is kidnapped while dealing with terrorists. And so he's had one thing after another hit, and you see him dealing with bitterness in it, and to the point that he's thinking, I don't believe in God anymore. If there's a God, this wouldn't happen. And you see God work in his life to just to bring him around to where he gets his heart back right with God as a result of what happens in it. But you can imagine when someone, what happened was he had lost his mother the previous year. And now his father is kidnapped by terrorists, and he may never see him again. And I wanted something that life is hard, and to pretend like it's not hard and everything's going to be wonderful, it gives kids a false reality. And we see hard things come in both Jake and Daniel's lives, because that's not all that happens. While Daniel's father is being held by terrorists, Jake and Daniel get into an adventure on their own that is a life or death type adventure. And you just see God working through their lives to bring about his purpose, his plan. And it helps to build the faith of these two young lads.
Yeah. And you can see that theme, and pretty much you're telling us what the takeaway is, but it's worth asking you. So when people get the book, and they can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and you have a website too.
Rockie Sue Books.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rockie Sue Books. You can go there. That's so easy to remember. What do you hope the kids take away from reading the book?
That as Christians, we're not alone. We are not alone. God is there. And Daniel's not a Christian in the beginning of it, but yet God is still there and helping him and leading him where he needs to be, that they're not alone. And the Lord works through the hard things in our lives, but his purpose will be accomplished. And I want them to take away a love for reading too, so that they want to get the next one. There's 4 books in this series so far, and I want the love of reading. Readers are leaders.
Ooh, I like that hashtag. Readers are leaders. So many good things to talk about with this. Jake and the Heavenly Host, Rockie Sue, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.